At Raising Financial Freedom, we're on a mission to inspire and empower financial freedom to every parent so that they can pass it along to their children. Through engaging stories, expert advice, and actionable tips, our podcast is transforming lives and helping listeners take control of their financial futures. Your support helps us produce high-quality, impactful episodes, expand our reach to underserved communities, and keep this life-changing content free for everyone. Whether it's $5, $10, or any amount, every donation fuels our mission and makes a difference. You can donate by clicking the heart-shaped link next to the social icons or the link at the bottom of the show notes. Once again, thank you for supporting Raising Financial Freedom and joining us in creating a world where financial freedom is within everyone's reach. Together, we can make a difference.
Today on episode 11 of Raising Financial Freedom, we have Jim DeGaetano. Now, Jim is a certified financial planner, a certified public accountant, and also has an MBA, and is also the president of Diamond Wealth Advisors. To put on top of all of that, he is now an author. He has 2 books that recently came out, Larry the Bunny Saves His Money and The Fruitful Retirement. Jim is here with us today to discuss Larry the Bunny Saves His Money mainly. But he's also here and he's going to share with us some good insights about raising financial freedom for your kids. So let's set off this holiday season right and get right into it.
Dad, hurry up and turn on the music.
Have you ever wondered why some people seem to have it all financially? Do well-off parents simply hand their children money? Or is there more to this wealth thing? Welcome to Raising Financial Freedom, the podcast. We are here to talk about everything you never knew to teach your children when it comes to starting their financial future. The principles behind wealth and methods that are out there to teach your child about personal financial freedom. There is no real trick to earning other than learning. We are here to discuss, teach, and grow with you. Raising Financial Freedom, the podcast, with your host and concerned parent, Eric Yard. Let us get right into today's show.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Raising Financial Freedom. I would like to welcome Jim DeGaetano to the show.
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing just fine. I'm glad you came on the show today. You have a book that recently came out. I would like to talk about it. So tell me about this book. Why did you start it?
The name is Larry the Bunny Saves His Money. And I wrote it because I have 2 young kids myself, ages 4 and now 7. And I was looking for a way to teach them about money and to do so via reading a book. And there just wasn't anything in that space. And so I wrote the book to be able to read to them about money.
When you first introduced this book to them, how did they receive the book?
They loved it. My daughter loves the cute bunny. The pictures are very engaging, illustrated for the kids. So it's a very fun read, and it is very elementary. The whole theme in the book is safe. And that's a concept that is very important for obviously not just adults, but kids to understand and grasp. It's the delaying of gratification now for something in the future, which adults have a difficult time doing. And so if we can get kids early enough to understand just the cause and effect of if you can save, then you can have money. And in the book, Larry goes on to have a wonderful life because he saved his carrots, because that's how he got paid. And so that's the theme in the book.
Right.
The kids really like it. They enjoy it. In fact, I can tell you that it has worked because, about a month ago, one of the grandmothers had given my daughter $1 for something. And she was smiling. I said, Anna, what are you going to do with that? She looks at me and she says, Daddy, I know Larry the Bunny saves his money. So she got the concept of saving to put a little bit away for a rainy day or for spending at another time.
So the book targets saving. Why did you choose that first method of finance, basically, to teach your children?
That's a great question. And the reason is the way our brains work. You said you have a 9-year-old, right? So I don't know if you remember when your kids were 3 or when your daughter was 3 or 4, Eric, but kids learn by observing. They learn by listening. And the brain works in a cause and effect manner at that stage. Just think about it. How do we learn how to speak? We learn how to speak in our native tongue because other people are speaking to us in that tongue. We learn how to walk because it's a natural progression. From a saving standpoint, there's no point to talk about stocks or Roth IRAs when a kid is 4 or 5 or 6 years old, 3. It's the concept of just saving and putting it in. It's why piggy banks can be effective. They take that, they put that in, they can see that being saved. And so for me, the concept was just to get them to understand that saving is good and the cause and effect. Things get good or bad. You touch a hot water, bad. You hit your brother or sister, bad. And then they learn consequences from certain things they do. And so the idea is that cause and effect of saying, hey, this is a good thing. Saving is good. That's all we're trying to teach at this age.
I see. Let's go back to when you first read the book to your kids. What did it feel like when you first read it to them?
It was cool. They got it. Now, they knew Daddy wrote it. So I think my daughter, who is now 7, she understood. My son's 4. I don't think he grasped as much about Daddy actually writing a book, but he really liked the bunnies and what they were doing. And so the way that the book works is Larry gets paid in carrots. He makes 10 carrots a month. And he always remembered what his dad taught him. Every time you work and get your pay, save 2 carrots for another day. And then he goes through life's activities, such as going to go to the farmer's market or the grocery store, and he needs a house and he needs a car and all these things, and they all cost carrots. And so in the book, you see him starting with 10 carrots, and then he goes to 8, and then to 5, based on how much things cost. And so the kids also my son really liked counting the carrots at 4. 1, 2, 3. So he would count the carrots. So he's learning about counting through the book. My daughter is already past that point at her stage, is a first grader, but she's understanding the concept of savings a little bit differently than he is and gets it. So they loved it. And I read it to them multiple times, of course. It was a cool experience, I would say.
So I read it, and I like the concept of Larry, buying a full cart of groceries with 2 carrots. And I was like, hey, maybe I got some carrots in my fridge. Maybe I could go to Publix and
if you actually look at the percentages in the book, they all fit out quite well for an adult. And so what I mean by that is 2 out of 10 carrots, saving 2 out of 10. When I start working with a young couple, one of the things that we talk about is certain strategies, such as what I would call a 5-5-10 strategy. Put 5% of every gross dollar you make into your savings account for a rainy day. Put 10% in for investments, your 401ks, et cetera, and 5% goes into the insurances. So 5-5-10, that's 20 cents on every dollar you make that you're paying yourself first to basically fill that 3-legged stool of cash, insurance, and investments. And you need them all. They need to be balanced, Eric, because if you cut off one of those legs, you fall down. And we need both. You can invest a lot of money, but if you don't have good cash management or save it, you're going to have to take from your investments for your daily expending anyways. And if you don't protect what you have on the insurance side, then it all can go away as well. So you need all 3. And so actually in the book, I did try to use appropriate percentages as rules of thumb. So a parent that's reading it to their kids could say, oh, okay, are we doing this? And reflect appropriately. And in fact, that's what some parents who have told me that have read the book, as a matter of fact, have said, hey, I was actually starting to think about how we're handling our money.
Oh, wow.
And that's a positive.
Yeah, that is positive. So the book touches lightly on some of the hurdles a person may experience in life when it comes to money and financing. One of them with taxes. Can you touch on some other aspects the book touches?
Yeah, I thought it would be funny for the parents. His uncle
was.
Sam. I think parents would find that funny, but it is a part of your life. And I think it is quite entertaining. I'll give an example. My office manager, when her kids got their first job, and they said, wait a second, I'm supposed to get this amount of money per hour. And they get their paycheck, and it's not that. So they learn quite quickly that there are obligations we all have as citizens here in this country, and other people in other countries have as well for taxes. And so I just thought that's an important thing. Parents can expand upon that how they feel appropriate in the right time. I know I volunteer with organizations such as Junior Achievement. And when we do that in 3rd and 4th and 5th grade, we're talking about community planning, and those things come into play. At this stage in this book, It's really just to bring up the concept of saving along with some other activities of life. Taxes is one of those that you cannot get around. At least the majority of Americans cannot get around. And I thought it was important to include in the book.
Oh, okay. That's definite. You definitely can't get around taxes unless you do something drastic. But other than that, yeah, taxes is as assured as death. What other things are you teaching your kids about money?
What am I teaching?
What other things are you teaching kids about money?
Introducing the Dollars and Cents Bundle. This isn't just another boring financial guide. It's your secret weapon for raising financially smart kids. Inside this bundle, you'll get 3 powerful tools to make money lessons a breeze. First up, a kid-friendly budget sheet. It's the perfect way to help your child track their money, build healthy habits, and get hands-on experience managing their earnings. Next, you'll unlock the guide Money Mavericks, bite-sized wisdom for busy parents. Think of it as your quick start playbook, packed with expert-backed tips to help you teach your kids about saving, spending, and everything in between. And finally, there's my favorite part, interactive digital flashcards. These are perfect for teaching core money concepts in a way that's fun, engaging, and memorable for the whole family. Here's the best part. The Dollars and Cents Bundle is completely free. Yep, free. All you have to do is sign up and the tools are yours, delivered straight to your inbox. You owe it to your kids to give them the skills they need to succeed in life. The Dollars and Cents Bundle makes it simple, fun, and totally doable, no matter how busy you are. So, what are you waiting for? Make financial literacy a family adventure. Head over to show notes right now to grab your free Dollars and Cents Bundle link, or go to nurturingfinance.com and subscribe. Don't wait. Start your family's financial journey today.
Well, I have a philosophy of delay, play, and say. I think one of the things you had mentioned, and a lot of people who probably are listening are busy. We lead very busy lives. And so you only have so many hours, minutes, seconds in the day to be able to teach our kids certain things. And so the delay, play, and say, I think is a very easy thing to remember. And when you say, what am I trying to teach my kids? Number one, the reason when it comes to money, the reason adults are financially successful, Eric, has to do with their behavior. That is the primary determinant of financial success. And so the reason people are successful financially is they're able to delay gratification, which I mentioned earlier. So that actually comes, ironically enough, right in with parenting, right? Because kids can't have everything they want in the exact time they want it. And if you're going to allow your kids to do that, you might have some difficulty with them later in life. You're not teaching them soundly about how the world works. We don't get everything exactly how we want it. There is a finite amount of money, but I'll use an example with my son. My son wants to play with me every second of the day when I'm home. And I could just have gotten done playing with him 20 minutes, cars and trucks. And then daddy takes a break and all of a sudden, daddy, can you play with me? We just played, but they don't think about that. And so what I've instituted is give me 5 minutes. Yes, I'd love to. Give me 5 minutes. So they have to actually be patient and understand. And I think it's a very good thing for parents to just instill that delayed gratification in their kids. And there's many ways to do that, but this isn't really necessarily money. This is just anything, but it does relate to money because if they understand that patience is a virtue and that's important and they get that cause and effect, then that can translate over into their adult lives when they begin saving. Play. So that's delay. The second will be play. You got to get on the floor and play with kids. And I'll give you an example of something we do that I think helps with learning about money. My kids have a toy kind of kitchen. And I think many families have this little kitchen and kids will play on it and cook and whatnot. So I play the customer and I sit there and the kids will pick their name of the restaurant and they pick whatever food they're going to give me. And of course I say, yes, I have this fake money and I pay them, Eric, and they have a cashier that I basically give them the money. But sometimes daddy doesn't have enough money. He can't afford it. So he says, I can't get that. That's too much. I can't pay for that. And so kids need to hear that. They need to understand that you just can't have everything in life. And so I think that's an important thing. And so through play, kids learn and observe and create. And that's how the brain grows. And our habits, actually, University of Cambridge came out with an analysis that said kids' money habits are formed by age 7. That's one of the reasons when I wrote the book, I was shocked to hear that, frankly. But more and more research that I've read with regards to neuroscience just backs that up. And it said, whoa, maybe we have this all wrong. Maybe we need to hit the kids early, not hit the kids, excuse me, bad word. Maybe we need to talk to the kids earlier about money, because you might think 3 years old, that's too early. That's, my goodness, are kids going to really understand? Kids are smart. They learn and they test. You give them an inch, they'll take a mile. They'll test how you behave. So it reasons to me that we could talk to them about money in very simplistic at this age ways. And that's why the book tried to be very simple and play. And then the last thing is we had said delay, play, and then say. That's reading to them. Just the mere reading to kids helps them learn about word, understand word, and then also cause an effect within the book and whatever you're teaching. And that's why I thought the book would be very helpful.
Okay. So you're teaching your kids now. What do you love the most about teaching your kids?
I just love my kids. And I think the ability to influence a young child, kid or not, your kid or not, it's just a wonderful thing. Any teacher will say what they love about their job is being able to influence kids and watch them grow. I think as parents, we all have a duty to raise our kids to be good stewards of society and good citizens. And so I think money is a part of that. Obviously, it's not the only thing. There are spiritual concerns and many other values-based concerns that come into play. But money can cause many problems. Money issues result in money issues are a major reason for divorce in this country. 85% of Americans are ill prepared for retirement. And these things don't just happen. We're not taught in college. We don't have a national curriculum in the high school for it. So how do you expect kids to learn about it? They learn about it from their first teacher, which is their parents. And good or bad is how those habits might be instilled at such an early age. And then as they get older, they can learn from their other teachers and even people like myself and yourself here with what you're doing with your podcast, which is wonderful, by the way. So what do I love about it? I just love watching them learn and being able to have that positive impact in their life. I think it's cool.
For the parents out there, how should they teach their children about money, spending, and saving, in your opinion?
First, I think there's a wonderful book on Amazon called Larry the Bunny Saves His Money. Sorry, I had to say that. But yeah, I think like we talked before, the delay, the play, and the say, you read to them. A book like what we have here is just part of it. You teach them appropriately. I think also as they start getting a little older, you can use the technique of the save, share, and spend, where you have 3 buckets. Many people tend to adopt that. You say, when you first get your money, you save a certain amount, and then you put a certain amount to share with someone that's in need, and then you spend the rest, right? Or you can call it many different things. You call it the save, the give, and live accounts. Right. And then eventually you're living on after I say this all the time, you spend after you saved. If you can do that consistently, you should be successful, because you should be saving enough to make sure you can meet your short and long-term goals. And that is, we're not getting into those long-term goals at this stage of the game with kids. That starts getting in when you get more into high school and the college planning and all that other stuff that comes in, and you really do have to talk more financially. But also, my wife and I always believed not to baby talk our kids. We just talk normal. And so it helps them learn in a way that I think is how we want them to talk and speak as they get older. And so that also means that when in the grocery store or when you're getting pizza or whatever, it's okay to let them know, hey, look how much this costs, and put that in terms they would understand. And for example, if they understand how, a toy that they like, that they love to play, how much does that cost? And then they can say, oh, wow. Oh my goodness. So I think it's okay to say those things with kids, and talk to them about money. The earlier you can do it in an honest way, I think the more honest the conversation becomes.
When it comes to teaching your children, what frustrations are you experiencing?
I don't think the podcast is long enough for that. No, I'm just kidding. No, I think my son right now is 4. He's going through a phase of really expressing his stubbornness with regards to doing things that we're asking him to do. And he'll put his feet in the ground and no, I'm not doing it. You need to do. And so we can't let him get away with that consistently, because he needs to understand that's inappropriate behavior. We use a numbering system as parents, 1, 2, 3. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but basically, if they do something that they shouldn't be doing, they get a 1. I don't need to yell at them. I don't need to raise my voice. That's a 1. You do it again, you better stop. That's a 2. And if you continue, that's a 3, and you take 5 or 10. And we put them to the side. My daughter got onto it really quickly, and it worked wonderful. My son pushed, but eventually we stayed with it, and now he's starting to come around. And so now that's more of an emotional, a parental thing with regards to teaching kids, but it all comes in, because if we're going to teach them about life and we're going to teach them about money, it's still teaching. It's still having them. People aren't going to learn if they don't respect who they're being taught by. And you have to establish some sort of discipline as parents. And that's maybe the tough love sometimes that comes into play. So we're dealing with it as any other parent is, that sometimes it can be quite frustrating. But at the end of the day, we love our kids. We're going to do what's best. And it's all out of love.
I hear you. What is the one resource you use the most when teaching your children about money?
Actually, it is the play. We play a lot. And so when I said about the kitchen or other things, this necessarily isn't money, but since they were really little, every time they went up the stairs, I would count the stairs. And we have 16 stairs as you go up. So they ended up counting quite well. I think you can use the concept of play to really teach kids in many different ways. And so I tend to do it more so in play. My wife now does more of the reading with kids at night. So every night we read to our kids, and we pray with our kids. I think that is all very important. And it's not just one particular thing. It's many different things. So for me, I do more of the get on the knees and the playing, and I turn it into a game. I turn it into a lesson, if you will. And my wife does a lot of the reading at night with the kids as well.
With these teachings, what kind of changes are you noticing with your kid?
I'll tell you, I think this environment we're in right now, the pandemic, makes this conversation even more important, because many parents of kids are teaching virtually, and that's very difficult. They're trying to work, and yet they're trying to teach, and that's hard. We're fortunate our daughter in first grade is still going to school. They've done a wonderful job, and everyone's been on board to follow the rules and make sure that everyone can be safe, and it's worked out very well, because it's also important that those lessons are taught when they go to school. And unfortunately, one of the issues I have with our curriculum is they don't really teach about money. And I think that makes it a little bit more difficult for parents, that if you're trying to teach at home, and then it'd be great if you went to school and they learned it also at school. And so you're reinforcing those things. So when they come home, they're learning about math or reading or whatever it may be, you're reinforcing that at home. So it puts more of the onus at an early age on parents, which makes these things more important. What I notice is if you make it fun for the kids, and they're going to do it. If you're forcing them to do it in a way that just does not make it fun, they're just not going to do it. So we try to make it fun, and then they like to do it. And so I think the one thing with the book that I tried to make it was to try to make it a little playful and fun. That way, when they read it, they'll like it. Even if the kids at 3 years old, really just because they want to count the carrots and they look at the cute bunny, that doesn't mean that their brains aren't hearing the words that are being taught to them. And so repetition of those words can be actually very helpful to help the brain kind of assimilate it.
Are there any other games that you have or that you implement in these teachings that some of our listeners might not know of?
You mean like
kid games that you
implement?
that you use with your kids?
Yeah, I used to love Monopoly growing up, but when we're talking about 3, 4, 5-year-olds, it's probably a little bit too early for Monopoly. But you can obviously play and have them play with you with Monopoly. And so I think any kind of game that we do play a lot of games. I'm trying to think specifically of the name of these games that I could say, and I can't remember the exact name of some of these games that we play. But anything that really does have them counting, that you're playing with them, can be actually very helpful, because they have to learn the number system anyways before they're in kindergarten, and that can be very helpful. So I'm trying to think, other than the kitchen, we play that they run. When they are, my son, he likes to play with trucks and cars. And so we'll have a highway that he has to drive on, and he has to pay tolls through the highway. So he learns about that costs money because there's a toll on the highway. So just little things like that. Anytime you can just put in a normal activity that he's just playing with cars. okay, my daughter's playing with, if she's playing with Barbies and she's doing activities, or she has these purses. Oh, you want to go shopping? Okay, this is going to cost some money. Barbie needs to bring money with her if she's going to buy some purses. So you don't have to go too deep, but you just gently bring in the concept, if that makes sense.
So you have a strong background in finance. Did your parents have anything to do with that while you were growing up?
About my background in finance? When I was going to college, I didn't really know what I wanted to major in. I'm a pretty outgoing guy. I was always very good at math and numbers. Actually, my mom she kept everything from when I was in high school and middle and elementary school, and she gave it to me over my last birthday, Eric. And I looked at the report cards, and it was crazy. In second grade, this was very interesting, especially because I have a first grader now. In second grade, they had a test that they gave us. And out of the test, they said I should end up doing something with money, maybe being an accountant, because I had tested off the charts with numbers.
That early?
And yeah, it's second grade. I found that so fascinating. They gave literally a report that said your son probably would be good in this career. And it was crazy because this was 3.5 decades ago. And so they must have stuff like that now to know which kids are pretty good at certain things. For example, my daughter's so good as she's a really good artist, and that's the way her brain works. And so I can see which direction she may go. And so for me, I didn't go in any particular route, but when I was looking at college, my dad always said, he said, look, just when you're going to school, make sure you can come out with a trade, something you can do to be able to make money. And I ended up choosing accounting because I thought that was something I could come out and be able to get a job in. And I stuck with it, even though, frankly, I didn't like it that much, because I noticed a lot of people failing out and going to finance. And I thought, if I can stick with this, maybe it's a good thing. I could always go back to finance later in the real world. And so that's kind of what happened. I just stuck with it, and it was a very good thing to learn and a trade to have. And I just always felt compelled to work with people. I love people. I love learning about others, and it increases my vibration. It makes me feel satisfied as a human being to work with others collectively, collaboratively. And so that combined with my finance expertise fit very well in the personal planning space. And that's where I've been for a while.
So as your children grow up, what accounts will be a must that they have, and what accounts you will leave up to them to possibly get into?
Yeah, bank accounts. They got to start with a bank account. And so that's very important. So that they have bank accounts. And so as they start earning money, that's when the importance of that saving comes into play, and making sure they put that aside. Because let's face it, if they don't open up a bank account until they're in college, or how can you expect them? Let me ask this. Do you really want your kids to have their first real world experience with money when they're out on their own in college, when they're being fed credit cards and all this other stuff for spending? You don't. You want to have them learn that, quote, real world experience under your umbrella. So I'm going to make sure they have bank accounts. When they get to be teenagers and they're working, I would say to any of your listeners, kids get a job, or if you run a business, hire your kids for a little bit. And then you can get them started on real investments such as Roth IRAs. They don't have to use their own money. You can match them. You can say, look, for every dollar you put in here, I'll match you $1. Because that's the way the 401k world works right now anyway. So there's some really cool things that as your kids start to become teenagers, things that you can do. In between that, you can do that sort of thing with allowances or earned work at home over and above what the normal and daily duty would be for living in the household. And you as parents can decide how that works, but you can still use that saving, sharing, spending bucket, or saving, giving, living. But a bank account is key. You got to have a checking and a savings account, and you set up a savings account for each goal. One is for your emergencies. Another might be for a certain goal. Maybe a kid wants a particular toy, or they want to go to camp, or they want something. They need to understand that you have to work to earn certain things in life, i.e. achieve certain goals. And that's very important. That's done so well in the sports world. That's why I'm a huge fan of sports. Kids understand that you have to be prepared. They understand the work that is involved to be able to play and then to be able to be a winner. And I think sports teaches so many wonderful lessons. And so you're just trying to do the same thing on the side with money.
I'm a firm believer of you must have double to triple more assets to your liabilities. What assets should a parent prod their child to go for first?
Okay. I got you. I guess that kind of depends on the situation. What I mean by that is, let's say their career has them traveling a lot and they might not be in the same location. It might not make sense to buy a house if you're going to only be there a year or two. Let's say you're a military man or woman, okay, and you're going to be traveling all over the world. It might be very difficult to, when you change station, to buy a house and try to manage that house. And there are added risks that come into play. So if you have a more of a stable job demographically, then sure, buying a home can make sense. But sometimes people think they have to buy a home immediately because they feel like they're wasting money if they're renting. And the reason why I'm honing in on this is the house is one of the largest purchases you'll have as a human being. And so it's very important to do it. And so if you had to wait a couple years to ensure that you could do maybe a 15-year mortgage and that you didn't have to go 0% on the Lowe's or Home Depot credit card and hope that you're going to be able to pay that back within 2 years, that might be a better thing to wait and hold off than say, I got to get in a home now. I don't want to pay rent to anybody because I'm losing equity. Yeah, most likely you'll buy a 30-year mortgage and the average person stays in a home 7 to 8 years and they really haven't paid any principal down on the house. And then they go through the process all over again. And this continues to happen and happen. They'd be better off waiting until they're sound economically and stable in their job financially so that they can say, you know what, we're going to buy the house, but we're going to buy it via a 15-year mortgage. And we have some money to put down, as well as make sure that we have money set aside for the things that come along with a home. It could be a lawnmower. It could be furniture. It could be all kind of stuff that averages about 4 to 5% of the home to begin with. So if you buy a $200,000 to $300,000 home, let's just say it's $250,000 or $300,000. At $300,000, you got to have $10,000 or $15,000 just probably set aside for stuff. And if you don't, and you're making it really tight, you're adding a lot of risk to your overall financial plan. So I think it depends on the situation. Sure, ideally it'd be great if you could buy a home right away, but how many kids at 22 years old have enough money saved for a reasonable down payment on a home? Many don't. And so usually the first thing that they're going to do is make sure they already have a bank account open, have an adequate emergency savings. Like I said, 5% of your gross monthly income should be going into an emergency bank account. Okay. When you get that emergencies done, that can flow into other things. But then you also want to be putting at least 10% of what you make gross at work into some sort of retirement account. I understand if you're young 20s and you think retirement's not for decades. That's true, but you got to start somewhere. You can't just wait until you're 59 and say, oh, I got to get started. So whether that's a 401k at work or whether you do your individual outside of work, a Roth 401k, Roth IRA, those are really good options. And then so you have both of those working for you. And then when you're ready to buy the home, you can do that. But you don't want to stop putting into your investments to just buy the home. You want to continue to be able to put into investments. And one of the things I noticed, Eric, when I would speak with younger couples, the reason that they would not move forward with a financial plan or financial strategy really didn't have to do with it had nothing to do with their ability to do it. They could do it. It was they chose not to. They did not want to do away with the extra dollars that they were used to going to, whether it's the bar or restaurants or spending or whatever it may be. And that is delayed gratification. When I talk to people that might be in their mid 40s or even 50s, that honestly, maybe life hasn't gone the way they expected and the things that they had hoped to do might not have occurred. And so maybe they're behind a little bit. Usually what I say is it's usually for them, not that they don't want to, they don't feel like they can. And so I say to them, you can learn from the past, set your sights in the present and moving forward. And here we are in 2020. If this year says anything, it's that anything can happen at any time. And so we need to be prepared, which is why we have money in our savings. But also we're going to move to 2021 and it's a great time for those individuals to say, hey, it's okay. There's no time like the present to get started.
Wow. Sound advice. Now I want to know is on that point that you just made, What do you think is the right time for a young adult or a teenager to start seeing a financial advisor or a financial planner?
Normally, that's a great question. At that age, when they're in teenagers, here's what I say to my clients. I say, when you think your kids are ready and old enough, have them come in and I'll do a finance 101 for them. Just a free kind of 101 education to speak to them in their terms. Most kids, that's going to be once they get out of college, to meet with someone who would be considered a financial advisor, etc. But I do have some parents that their kids just love researching stocks, or they're very into money and they're going to go a finance route. And so they might come in early. They might be a junior, senior in high school, and they're thinking about majoring in finance or accounting. And so they want to come in, and that's fine. So I think it's child dependent. Let's face it, not everyone's going to find the conversation we're talking about interesting. It's just some people, when it comes to money, they just want to tune out. That doesn't mean that the parents shouldn't have already instilled good habits. As we said, habits form by age 7. So you really want to start early, but you want to continue with that because bad habits can be broken and changed, of course. So the question was when they should start seeing an advisor. I don't really think teenagers probably need to be seeing an advisor. I think when they get out in the working world, it would be a good time to establish that kind of relationship. That doesn't mean that teenagers can't have Roth IRAs. They can. And I would say that can be done under their parents' umbrella, if you will. And they would have to, and maybe meet an advisor to do that, or they just go straight online directly with a Vanguard or something like that, Fidelity, that they could just get an account under their parents' or advisors' guidance. One of the things that is also new for me, we talked about, or Larry, the Bunny Saves His Money book, but I also have written a retirement book as well. It's called The Fruitful Retirement. And that has just hit Amazon. And it's about people that are about to retire or recently retired, and to help them through that very emotional transition that inevitably occurs whenever they do make that move.
On the note of that saving, what is the one thing that people don't realize about saving?
That's a good question. I think most people underestimate the amount of money they spend. And so consequently, they may underestimate the amount that they need to have saved for a particular time in their life. I think on the other end, though, Eric, I think the other thing is just, it's not rocket science. It's emotional. It's behavioral. You can do this. Saving doesn't have to be very difficult. And what's interesting is every kid I talk to who is in that if I go speak to a Boy Scout group in high school, or I speak to a bunch of college students at a local university, which I do these things frequently, I ask kids to raise their hand and I say, look, does this sound hard to you? And no one thinks it sounds very difficult to be able to save. And I say, why do you think that people and Americans in general have such a difficult time saving? And there's this kind of quiet response, because to these kids, it seems like, yeah, that seems very simple. It shouldn't be that difficult. But it's our behavior. Once you get used to doing something, it's very hard to stop. And I think that's the biggest thing with saving, is that start early, do it often, do it with discipline. The benefit of paying yourself first in an automatic way through work or through your advisor or your bank or whatever it may be is that it's already done. And then you just get used to spending what you have left. And the earlier you start, the better. What better time to start than when you first get a job, because you're not used to having that money to begin with. So you're not used to having it. So you might as well just say, hey, look, I'm not used to having it. And I usually say to people, when you have pay raises, that's great. You have earned it. And so you want to have some fun with it. That's great. But make sure that as a percent, you're also increasing the amount that you are saving. Okay. So if you're saving a specific dollar amount, make sure you increase that. If you're saving based on a percentage, you will automatically increase the amount that you're saving and investing as you make more money. And so as you make more, you save more. And of course, that also means you can spend more as well.
Right. It surely does. Good advice. Yeah. Good advice. All right, Jim, I'm about to wrap this up. Tell the listeners out there where they could find both your books and how they could reach you.
Yeah, Eric, this has been fun. I really greatly thank you for having me today and to be able to talk to your viewers here on this wonderful podcast. People can find me on jimdegaetano.com, and my last name is not one that is easy to spell. So it's DEGAETANO. So jimdegaetano.com. You can also go on Amazon and you can search for Larry the Bunny Saves His Money. You can also search for The Fruitful Retirement. And both of those books are there. But feel free to find me on my website. You can join up on the newsletter if you want. And message me if you have any questions. I'd love to hear from you.
All right, Jim, once again, thank you for coming out on Raising Financial Freedom.
Thank you, Eric. Thanks for having me.
So a couple of things I could have taken out of that interview was, one, saving is a good starting platform to teach your kids about finance. So having them start there and then building on that is a great move when you're trying to teach them finance. Two, use games. Games is a great tool to get your message across when it comes to finance. And Jim uses a lot of games in order to get his point across. He made a book, but he also uses a lot of games in order to get his message across. Three, if there's not a tool out there that you're not satisfied with in order to help you teach your child what they need, make it, research it and make it. This is your child. Make a custom tool in order to get your message you're trying to get to them. With Jim, he wasn't satisfied with what he saw out there and he went ahead and made a book. So don't let hurdles get in your way when teaching your message. Now, the holidays is finally here, and I would like to wish everyone a happy holidays and also have a safe one. So come back next week where we're going to have some very important announcements. And like always, subscribe and share with other parents.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode of Raising Financial Freedom, the podcast. Stay connected with us directly through raisingfinancialfreedom.com. You can also join the discussion on social media, which you can also find links on our website. If you would like to speak with us, please send us an email through info@raisingfinancialfreedom.com. And as always, thank you for pushing your mindset towards a better reality. This concludes the most thought-provoking portion of your day. Don't forget to please like and subscribe to stay fully up to date. Until next time, be kind to yourself and each other.
Before you go, I wanted to tell you about a new option called Fan Mail, which uses text messaging to give our listeners the ability to text our show directly. There is a link in every episode at the top that will say, "Send us a text." You can use that link to text the show. When a listener clicks the link in our episode description, a new text message will open on your device directly to the show. It's that easy. So tell me what you think, what else you want to hear out of the show, or simply your thoughts on that episode you just heard.